Welcome to the Marketing Lab, your go-to podcast for all marketing information. I'm your host, Tyler, and we'll cover different tips, tricks, and strategies to help level your marketing up, examine real-world case studies, and dissect all the marketing implications and how you can best use this information. And lastly, bring in industry professionals to share their knowledge along with entrepreneurs and discuss their marketing journeys in business. Now oh my goodness, Ben, I've been bad the past few episodes, but we are rolling anyways. Now let's get our lab coats on and jump right in. So this episode is one that I actually had, I believe I was on a run. Either I was on a run or I was working out, and I had this thought that the reason why this podcast might also be a little bit political or push a narrative, I don't know, push an agenda, but we're going to do it anyways because I think this is something about target audience. And I think a reason that they are potentially pushing the agenda of creating feminine men is that it could be to tap into a whole new market. So basically what I'm trying to go over, the narrative, is they're creating feminine men. They're saying it's okay to express your feelings. It's okay to wear makeup. It's okay to paint your nails. It's okay to wear dresses as men. And it's okay to be feminine or whatever you want to say. And the reason I think that's the narrative that I'm going to be going with and arguing against or whatever you want to call it. And the reason why I do think they are doing this is because when you look at the industry, they only tap into half the market, and they're a multi-billion-dollar companies or multi-billion-dollar industry when you look at it. And a lot of the people at the top in business, like say BlackRock and all these other companies, they're greedy sons of bitches, to say it bluntly, where they just want as much money as possible and they want to capitalize on as much money as possible wherever they can. And they own these companies that rake in billions of dollars a year, and certain ones, say like makeup companies, they are multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're only targeting half the target audience, half the market, because they're only targeting females. So that's why I think they might be trying to create. There's probably other reasons, but this is just an interesting thought that I had. It might not even be the actual reason. This was just a thought that I had, that they could potentially be doing it because it's such a big industry. And now that they're trying to open it, they're trying to add in all these men because they only target half the audience or half the market with targeting through females. Now they're trying to target men as well. And it's just an interesting concept because they're trying to push this narrative, be like, okay, it's be feminine, wear paint on your nails, wear makeup. And now men are starting to buy their products, and that's just increasing their profits because they are trying to push this narrative that it's okay to be feminine and it's okay to, and in the first place, I never really understood makeup and that whole industry. And I know girls do it to try and feel beautiful, but honestly, when I look at it, I think that it's better when girls don't wear makeup because it shows confidence. And it's funny, I was on a plane ride one time, and the stewardess, I think they're called, she was wearing quite a bit of makeup, and it was just really interesting. And it got me thinking that girls, I guess some guys, paint their faces is what you think about. They paint their faces. Like she had the eye thing, and it like went up, and it was like maybe not an inch long, but it was like half an inch long on her eye. And I'm just thinking, man, she painted her face. I think that was like my first time or realization that that's kind of what it is when girls are wearing makeup. I've always said like they got a cake face or whatever it is. They got a pound of cake on their face because they got to like cover up or whatever. And it's no offense to them. Like there's a lot of girls that I know that don't wear any makeup, and they don't have, say, the best face or facial features or whatever it is and they don't cover it up. And honestly, when I see that, I see a lot of confidence in them to be able to go out without having to put makeup on because they are comfortable in their skin. And whenever I see, and I'm not trying to bash girls for wearing makeup, if it makes you feel better or makes you feel beautiful, then have at it. I just think that this whole industry was built on marketing and how you can paint your face. I got to figure a better term than saying paint your face, but when you put makeup on your face, it just makes you feel more beautiful. And a lot of the marketing behind it, they take these supermodels and they put them in the commercials. I covered one podcast episode with Jamie Lee Kern where she had her own product line with makeup, and basically the way she went about it was, this isn't targeting the actual people that are really going on. If you do want to check it out, it's our 4th episode, TML 4, Jamie Kern Lima using unicorn marketing strategy to create a $1.2 billion empire. I thought it was a really good episode because she really tapped into her target audience and she spoke directly to them, where what a lot of people are doing, and I don't know how ethical it would be because so many people are doing it where it becomes fake, and that's something that I'm not a big fan of, especially on social media where everyone's projecting this fake lifestyle and fake life to try and make it seem like they're perfect. And a lot of people are getting, say, implants in their ass or implants in their chest, or taking steroids and claiming not to take steroids, and then they end up promoting their body because they have these physical features that they now quote unquote have, and they never really actually, like, they might have put in the work to try and get there, but they weren't able to get the actual results that they got now, and then they end up starting to sell programs. And I think that's one thing that Kylie Jenner did with her makeup line. She did a lot of plastic surgery, and then she started creating this makeup company, and she promoted beauty, and she used herself as that personal brand. And a lot of her features, I guess you could say, ended up being fake because of all the surgery that she went through, and she's using her makeup to capitalize on it. And sure, it's capitalist market and you're doing all this stuff to make a buck, but it just somewhat seems unethical because in a sense you're lying to the target audience, like, this makeup is going to make you look like this. And when I look at that, man, I don't know how I got here, but I feel like I'm way off topic. But when you look at that, it just seems like they're lying to people. And then when they just promote this to women all the time, and it's just like, if you wear all this makeup, you're going to look beautiful, or you're going to look like this supermodel. And that's what it seems like they're doing a lot. And that's how they were able to get to this market. And they normalized, I guess you could say, putting makeup on your face. And that became somewhat of the norm for girls to put makeup on their face, to wear nail polish, to have this beauty industry be this giant of a multi-billion-dollar industry. And that's how they were able to do it, by projecting what girls are going to be looking like if they start using their products. And I think they're taking a little bit of a different approach for men. Like I said, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but if they are trying to do this and get men into this market so they can capitalize and get more money, and they're not just targeting half the market, they're trying to create a feminine market for men and be like, hey, it's cool if you wear makeup and it can make you look beautiful, or it can I don't really know what they're saying, but they're trying to create this feminine narrative for men to say, hey, it's okay for you to wear makeup or nail polish or whatever it might be, so they can start capitalizing on the other half of the market that they currently don't target towards, or they don't buy their current products. So it's interesting. It was an interesting thought that I had, and it ties into target audience and target market. And a lot of times, if you're ever watching Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary really doesn't like products that are either targeting a small portion of the market or it's seasonal. And this is, I wouldn't really say that it's a small target of the market because it's 50%, but at the same time, you're weeding out 50% of the people because they don't buy your product because it doesn't they don't typically buy that. But now this isn't like a conspiracy or whatever you want to call it podcast. This is a marketing podcast, and this is all speculation around a potential reason why they could be pushing the narrative. But I don't think it is this reason, but I think it could play into it. But it just opens the market to be able to be a wide open market and add more billions of dollars onto what they are currently selling, because when you only sell to half the market, and I mean, they do well for themselves being in a multi-billion-dollar industry. So it's just the greedy people at the top. They just want to be able to capitalize on more people, to be able to push more product out to market and be able to capitalize on that and get more revenue for all their dollars that they are being spent on. So that's just one of my thoughts that I had while I was running. I don't think I really had anything much else to say. I feel like I keep talking in a circle here, but I just thought it was an interesting point of view to look at it, where it's just looking at your target audience and the market that you currently market towards. And if there are ways, maybe you could take this away. Maybe if there are ways for you to tap into the other markets, and maybe you only... a lot of the times you do hear niche down, and one thing that I have seen recently with Old Spice is that they're somewhat branching into females using the male products, and honestly, that's kind of deterring me away from Old Spice, and that's a whole topic for itself, to not use Old Spice because it's owned by these conglomerates, and it also gave me like rashes on on my armpits, but that might be too much information. But that's just another piece of information with niching down, where maybe you should only speak to your target audience, because what Old Spice is doing, they used to be like this macho manly brand only targeted to men. And I remember back in the day, they used to have Terry Crews, and then they got this other dude. They were both really jacked, and they targeted men. And now women are starting to use it, and now they're making the products, I guess, a little more feminine, I guess you could say, where they're white as opposed to red. Red, I guess you could say, portrayed more strength, I guess you could maybe say. Now white is more of a in-between type of color, where girls feel fine carrying around that as opposed to other colors. So it makes it seem like Old Spice is trying to do the same thing, just on the opposite side with some of their products, because I think you even see in a lot of their commercials now, the guy is talking to the wife or whoever it is, and she's using all of his products. So it's maybe this conspiracy is true, because I am now just thinking about it, that they are doing it on both sides of the market. And one thing that you might need to think about, and that I was going to be going into, is niching down. And they might, when you start branching out to other parts of the market, you might end up losing the other market, because you're not speaking to them anymore. You're letting other people in that don't share the same brand values or brand whatever it is as you. And that's something I'm probably, for other reasons as well, but I'm probably going to be branching away from Old Spice, because they are targeting women now and making it more of like a unisex type of brand. Maybe it's just a whole part of this whole narrative where they're trying to make it all inclusive, and everything's inclusive, and there's no genders and whatever the fuck you want to call it. But with me, I'm probably going to be branching away, because they are trying to tap into this female market. And when you are trying to, so yeah, I feel like niching down might be the best thing. I didn't think this fully through, because this thought did just come into mind, because once you start branching out, you can't speak to everyone. You have to speak to a specific individual. And if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. So what you want to do is speak to individuals and find exactly who you want to speak to in that market. And who knows, maybe if all this, like Maybelline, I think they're called, and all these other makeup companies that are trying to branch out to men, maybe women are going to not want to be associating themselves with that, because men are using it. Maybe women don't care as much as men, but for me, I'd rather not smell like women, and I know back in the day, men had this perfume or spray or smell that they really wanted, that was like macho and strong and masculine, I guess you could say. And now it's becoming more watered down to a more modest. I'm more of a modest type of person, like, especially with, like, I don't think my deodorant has any scent to it, but I don't know why we're talking about that, but I just think that niching down, speak to a specific audience, speak to a specific individual, and we'll see if their greed ends up hurting them more than it actually tries to benefit them, because that might be what they're trying to do, is trying to tap into a new market and trying to get a little bit greedy because multi-billions of dollars isn't enough for them. They want more multi-billions of dollars, but maybe when they start speaking to everyone, they end up speaking to no one. So maybe that's something to take into consideration, that when you are trying to market to someone, you have to speak to that individual person. So I know Alex Hormozy talks a lot about this, where when you speak to that specific individual, say it's like, let me think of an example. Hydro Flask salesman, I don't know. I'm trying to get as specific as possible. And Logitech salesperson training, that's going to be able to speak directly to that specific person as opposed to sales training. So it's just narrowing it down as much as possible, and you're going to be able to speak directly to that person, and they're going to feel like they're being spoken to. Whereas if you're speaking to everyone, you're not going to be speaking to anyone. So that's just something to keep in mind when you are trying to figure out your market and figure out your target audience and who do you want to speak to. So I think that's pretty much all I got here. I know I got a little bit off topic. I probably went in circles. Hopefully I did provide a little bit of value there. I think it was an interesting thought that I had when I was on my run. So I'm not exactly sure if this is true or not, but the more I started to talk about it, the more I started to think that it actually was real. So maybe it was, maybe it isn't. We'll see how their greed plays out, but speak to a specific individual, and I think you are going to be in good terms with them. So thanks for tuning in to the Marketing Lab. If you got some value out of this episode, share it with your team, colleagues, friends, or anyone you think this will benefit. You can leave a review and let us know how we did. We'll take any feedback so we can create the #1 marketing podcast out there and deliver the most value to you. If you'd like to apply to be on the show and share your expertise, head on over to newframedigital.com/the-marketing-lab. And at the bottom of the page, you'll fill out a form, or there'll be a form that you can fill out. Remember, every entrepreneur needs a lab, and this is yours. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.